from a newly digitized fragment of the Dead Sea Scrolls, Noah's Ark was something different than what is currently believed. The 2,000-year-old text may prove that the Ark was the shape of a pyramid. Over 50 years ago, a stone thrown by a Bedouin shepherd in a cave led to what some have called the greatest archaeological discovery of the 20th century. The Bedouin heard the stone crack open an earthenware jar. Upon investigating, he found the first of what would become known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. When all the scrolls and fragments were sorted out, they amounted to more than 800 manuscripts. About one quarter, or just over 200 manuscripts, are copies of portions of the Hebrew Bible text. Now, after almost 5 years, a laboratory established by the Israeli Antiquities Authority as part of the Leon Levy Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library project has scanned tens of thousands of fragments from the scrolls with a custom-made camera. Each fragment was photographed 28 times at high resolution using different wavelengths of light. The sophisticated technology enabled researchers to read letters and words that were previously illegible. Some of the newly digitized fragments offered new interpretations of well-known biblical stories. Haaretz reported that the new reading of the fragments has changed our understanding about Noah's Ark. Thanks to the high-resolution imagery, a word following the phrase, "the Ark's tallness," had previously been illegible. However, the new scan showed that the correct word is nesfit, meaning gathered, which according to researcher Dr. Alexei Yudetsky means that the Ark's ribs were gathered together at the top in the shape of a pyramid. Dr. Yudetsky said that the Septuagint, a translation of the Bible dating from the 3rd century BC, used a Greek verb with a similar meaning to describe the Ark. Moreover, medieval authors like Maimonides suggested that the Ark's roof was pointed. The newly deciphered words on the ancient parchment stayed hidden for centuries, but are now bringing answers to many long-standing questions, as well as raising new ones. Previously, the story of Noah's Ark was known mainly from the book of Genesis. However, the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Qumran Cave in the Judean desert shed new light on this story. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain information about many controversial and fascinating topics from the past, the story of Noah and the legendary flood being one of them. Christos de Jonas, guest author of Ancient Origins, explained in his article, Evidence of the Great Flood, Real or Myth, that the story of the Ark is not just a biblical account. The story of the Great Flood sent by God, or gods, according to much earlier testimony, to destroy humanity for its sins is a widespread account shared by many religions and cultures around the world, and dates back to our earliest recorded history. From India to ancient Greece, Mesopotamia, and even among North American Indian tribes, there is no shortage of such tales that often enough sound very much alike. Some of these stories truly sound so similar that one could wonder whether all cultures around the planet had experienced such an event. Only after 7000 BC, when the ocean levels finally began stabilizing, human life once again began to return to normal. Coastal sites no longer had to be abandoned from higher ground, at least for the most part. And between 6000 BC and 5000 BC once more, we began to see signs of human activity closer to the sea.
Disfruta del Perú al máximo.
Is it a mere coincidence that a recorded history happens to start around this time? Is it true that early humans were too primitive to leave traces of their existence behind, or the early pages of our history were washed away by the Great Flood or the last Ice Age? After all, it seems that as soon as the adverse climatic conditions receded, it did not take long for humans to thrive once again. Another discovery resulting from digitization is connected with two fragments that shed light on a puzzling word in the Bible. Chapter 39 of Genesis describes how Judah had sex with his daughter-in-law, Tamara. She disguised herself as a prostitute, and as guarantee of payment she received his signet, staff, and pittel. After many centuries of debate regarding the meaning of the word pittel, the Dead Sea Scrolls have finally given the answer with the following sentence. Pittel is his belt. As Moshe Bashar, the Academy president, said, the word pittel is mentioned in the Bible 10 times. In every place, we know what it is and what its function is, except for the pittel Tamar received, In this, our ancestors were divided. But now we have an early text from the 1st century at the latest, which gives the meaning of this patil. It's the belt which he had tied his trousers or his robe. Despite decades of study and analysis, the Dead Sea Scrolls are still giving up their secrets. Researchers from the Haifa University have reconstructed the contents of one of the last 2 undeciphered Dead Sea Scrolls, disclosing a distinctive calendar used by the Jewish sect that lived in the Judean desert during the Second Temple period. 60 small fragments were pieced together over a period of 12 months, identifying the name of a festival marking the changes between the seasons. It has also revealed a second scribe who corrected mistakes made by the original author, as the BBC reported. The collection is considered the oldest copy of the Hebrew Bible ever found, dating to at least the 4th century BC. The 900 scrolls written by the ancient Jewish sect never stopped amazing historians and archaeologists from the day they were discovered in a cave in Qumran in 1947. Tens of thousands of fragments belonging to over 900 scrolls were found in the caves at Qumran. Dr. Ishbal Ratson from the Bible department at Haifa University told Haaretz and adds, "This is the most important archaeological find ever made in Israel." This is literature from the Second Temple period, and that's rare. It is not known who wrote the scrolls, even though several historians have suggested that the writers were an ascetic desert sect called the Uzites. They said they were assisted by deciphering the code by annotations discovered in the margins by a scribe correcting omissions made by the author. Dr. Ratson explained that it took decades that involved many scientists and researchers to piece the fragments together, decrypt them, and then publish their contents. Still, 2 of them remained undeciphered. The scrolls are written in 3 languages, Hebrew for the most part, Aramaic, while a few of them are written in Greek. The scroll Dr. Ratson worked on with Professor Jonathan Bentoff, also from the Bible department at Haifa University, was written in coded Hebrew, and some of the fragments were smaller than 1 square centimetre. Very few scrolls that had previously been deciphered were written in this language, she says via Haaretz. The 2 experts noticed a unique 364-day calendar, which was already known to the researchers and differs significantly from the one Jews used at that period. Most Jews used a calendar that is similar to the one used today. The sect used a calendar that was almost based on a solar year, comprising of 364 days. There are months with 30 or 31 days in every season. Dr. Ratson stated via Haaretz and adds 364 divides into 7, so every date falls onto a specific day of the week, and every holiday has a fixed date. We know that in the temple there were some disputes between different sects over what happens if Passover falls on Sabbath. What supersedes what? Sabbath or the holiday? This sect solved the problem, since no holiday fell on Sabbath. The scroll details all the dates in which the Sabbath falls and all the days of the week on which holidays fall. Dr. Ratson also explained that when significant events took place inside a temple, such as a high priest making a sacrifice in Yom Kippur, only one calendar could be used. But this calendar was disputed, which may be one of the reasons that the sect left the temple and went to the desert. They had many disputes, and this was one of them. They couldn't celebrate holidays together, she told Haaretz. Furthermore, the researchers also noticed the name used in the sect for a festival commemorated 4 times a year that marked the transition between the seasons. The Tekafu, the same word in modern-day Hebrew, means period. This shows us that the researchers who believed the day of celebrating the transition between the seasons was called by this name were correct, and that this word, as used in the Mishnah, was preserved for the days of the Second Temple. It is a very early concept of halakha, religious Jewish law. Dr. Ratson stated via Haaretz, adding that the unique calendar also refers to annual wine and olive harvest festivals no longer observed in Judaism.